This is the fourth video segment of the 512 design, exploring our kitchen ceiling options. The various options that we'll be looking at in this design are, to begin with, the flat ceiling, which is the default when you design a room. Then I've designed a slat ceiling inset using soffits, a shed style with both the roof and then the ceiling style along with skylights, and then the final design, which is a vaulted ceiling at a coincident 5 and 12 pitch. So let's go ahead and go into the program and take a look at how our ceiling options work. In Chief Architect, when you create 4 walls, it automatically will create a ceiling for you. You can see in this cross section that in our room, in specifics for the kitchen, I've already got a flat ceiling in there. If you highlight the room in your design and we double click on it, there is a structure tab, and the ceiling is generated right here, and you can set the ceiling heights. You'll notice the diagram on the right side of this panel corresponds to the different fields here. I've got a finished ceiling height right now of just over 99 inches. If I remove the ceiling out of that, it's going to create a vault. You can see what happened in the cross-section view, and yes, the electrical is intelligent. It will follow the different ceiling planes, and that's probably the easiest way to create a vault. If I rebuild the roof and change the roof structure to something like 6 and 12, it will dramatically increase that pitch, and you can see what happens there. Let me undo that here real quickly. Go back to a 3 and 12 pitch. So the roof is going to control what options you may have with your ceiling in some cases. Let's go back into this design and put our ceiling back in. Generate that platform. The first ceiling that I want to create is generated from or inspired from this photo. And you can see what we have an inset. I suppose I'm going to call those slats that we'll go ahead and design and create that really right over the top of our island. So this is my rendering of it, and I'm going to use the Soffit tool and show you how to create it. In the plan view, I'm going to select the Soffit tool, and I'm going to bump that up against our first wall. Let's go ahead and stretch that from edge to edge. When you open up this soffit, what I want to do is I want to set the height of that soffit to be 4 inches, and floor to bottom is good at 96. I'm going to remove the auto adjust so that it's not off the finished floor. Select OK, and let's go ahead and pull this out just a little ways, and I'm going to take and copy that soffit, and I'm going to reflect it around the center of the room, so it places one more soffit there, and just approximately bring it up to the center of the doorway. Notice I get a snap there. And let's grab this soffit and let's create a copy of it, and we'll just paste it near the wall, and I'll have to snap that into place around here. And on this side, looks like I missed my snaps. Let's go ahead and snap that into place, and let's go ahead and copy that and reflect it around the center of the room, and I'm going to pull this one around. So now you can kind of just see where our exposed island is. I'm going to take this particular soffit here, and I'm going to create a copy of that, and we'll just slide it over into this area right here. Now, the first thing I want to do is let's make this much smaller. In fact, let's open it up, and let's set the depth of that to be exactly 8 inches. And if I come over here, I can actually click on this dimension up here. Let's highlight that, and if I zoom in, I guess I can't quite get that dimension. We'll just slide over, and now I should be able to click on that. I'm just going to set this to something like 12 inches and move that over. I'm not going to really worry too much about it. And now I'm going to take and copy that using my multiple copy tool. and I'm going to create 6 copies of that. Actually, let's create 5 copies, so I'll have a total of 6. And we're just going to slide that to the edge of the island. I'm not going to worry too much about being exact on my dimensions. And now when we go back into our 3D view, we should see the effects of what this looks like. And all I need to do really is paint those slats. Let's use the object painter, and we'll come in and paint the individual items. If I would have done that on the first one before I would have copied it, then I wouldn't have to do that individually. So that is the first ceiling that we have set up, and using a combination of soffits, I create that inset. So it's a nice option instead of having the flat ceiling. The next ceiling style for our kitchen is a shed style. Notice on this ceiling it's partially flat into the room and then there's a shed. So I'm going to apply approximately a 2 and 12 pitch on the ceiling, and then we'll also apply the beadboard style on the ceiling as well. I've already rendered this out, and effectively this is what we're going to go through and create in our design. So let's get started. Ceilings in Chief Architect can be controlled through the use of walls, room definition, and your roofs. Let's explore how to do this in creating that shed style ceiling partway into the kitchen. When I select the master bedroom by clicking on it, you can see the room definition is shaded. Same thing if I click inside the kitchen. So both of those rooms actually have a flat ceiling, as you can see on the right side of the section view. So what I want to do is I'm going to use a room divide tool that can be used for flooring transitions or ceiling transitions in different designs. So I've drawn a room divide tool that is in the center of that doorway. The next thing I'm going to do is highlight the wall that divides the bedroom and the kitchen and open it up, and there's an option right here that says no room definition. When I check that, it's going to eliminate that wall as being a divider of room definition. Select OK. Now when I click on that area of the bedroom, it actually extends into the kitchen partway. In the kitchen room, let's open that up, and now on the Structure tab, let's remove the option for the ceiling. Watch what happens when I remove this in our section view. You can see that it created a vault and effectively opened that entire space up. Now to further control the ceiling, what I want to do is rebuild the roof. Let's go ahead and open that up and change the pitch to 2 and 12, and you can see what will happen when I select OK. So it effectively lowered the ceiling in that area. Let's go back into our plan view here and take a 3D view inside of the room. So I'm going to use the floor camera and just point and shoot in the area that I want to create the view in. And you can see the effect of that ceiling design. Now notice that the electrical automatically followed that ceiling slope. So if I had any electrical in there, at least for the can lighting, I don't have to adjust that. For the pendant lighting, I'd probably pull these down in a section view to make sure that I had them exact instead of just clicking on them in a perspective view. But I can still do that and pull them down and get them approximately in some sort of a lower height. Let's open up the library and let's do a search for a beadboard. We'll scroll down and find a color and apply it onto the ceiling. And now let's close our library up. And the view that I had showed previously was the technical illustration. Let's go ahead and select that view, and now you can see what that looks like with the technical illustration. There are several camera styles that you can use and choose from, ranging from watercolor, line drawing, and all of these techniques have controls where you can set the different styles for that, and control in detail. Let's move on and create our open vault with the skylights and explore that next ceiling option in the next segment. The final ceiling style for our kitchen is an open vault with some shelving above. This vault is actually more than just removing the ceiling out. If I did that underneath the roof, the ceiling would follow the roof pitch. And depending on what size of rafter that I may have used, then I may not be able to get proper insulation. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you how to use custom ceiling planes. And I'm going to put, you can't really see it very well in this design, but I have a flat ceiling that is on both ends of the room in the walkway into the dining room. Let's go ahead and explore how to create this in the program. The very first thing that I'm going to do in the design is I'm going to highlight the combined room of the bedroom and kitchen, and I'm going to remove the ceiling option out of those two rooms. So I'm going to uncheck that. You can see what happens in the cross section. It completely removes that ceiling. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to use my custom ceiling planes and draw in this area right where my mouse is towards the dining room table or the breakfast table, a flat ceiling plane, and then I'm going to extend the vault going up at a 5 and 12 pitch. When we built our roof, the roof is actually at a 6 and 12 pitch. By going at a 5 and 12 pitch, that will lower the overall ceiling height and allow to get insulation into that area. In the plan view, I'm going to select my ceiling tool. Using the ceiling plane tool, I'm going to come on the outside of the wall, click, hold my mouse button down, release, come up. We'll just come out a ways, and that creates my first ceiling plane. Now you can't see it yet because it's following the pitch of the roof, but if I open this up, let's change the pitch from our default roof pitch to 0 so it is flat. You'll be able to see it now show up in the cross-section view. Let's pull that to the inside of the walls, snap it in place, and we'll snap it on the other wall. And then finally what I want to do is click on the outside edge, and I'm going to set that to be 3'4". And that will approximately position that right over our doorway inside of the dining room transition. Now the next thing I'm going to do is again use the ceiling tool, and I'm going to click, release, come up, and position that. You can see the beginning of it in our section view. Again, let's open up the ceiling plane, and in this case I want to set the pitch to a 5 and 12 pitch. You can see the ceiling plane then adjusts down. Let's go ahead and drag that to the center of the door. Got a snap indicator there. Again, notice the electrical snap down to that once the ceiling plane comes in. And now I just need to do the exact same thing on the other side of the bedroom. Now all I'm going to do is copy and reflect those two ceiling planes around the center of that doorway. My main vaulted ceiling is still selected. Let's shift select the second one. Select the copy tool down in the lower left hand section of the screen, and then the reflect about tool, and we'll just come around right in here and reflect that ceiling plane in that view. Now you can see in the cross section the flat ceiling, the vault, continuing the vault into the bedroom, and that flat ceiling will then transition through the doorway into the closet area. The next step in the ceiling is I want to place the skylights. In preparation for placing those skylights, I'm actually going to do the framing because I want those skylights to fit through the framing members, or in this case we're going to use a truss. And if you're an interior designer, you may not care about this step, but in the portion of the ceiling plan that I have, you can see that the skylights, which are represented here with the vertical hatching, fit exactly in between the trusses and framing members that we have. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do the framing members. Chief Architects supports both trusses and stick framing. If I were to stick frame this, it would automatically just do the stick framing and we would be done. But in this case, I want to use the truss framing members that we have. And the first thing to do is select the roof truss tool. We'll just drag a truss across the design here. And you'll notice in the cross-section view, the truss has automatically formed between the envelope of the ceiling plane and the roof plane. The framing elements are intelligent, so that's an advantage to drawing them, is you're going to get accurate framing. Let's go ahead and select this truss. Actually, let's place a framing reference marker. And a framing reference marker, if I'm going to place my trusses 2 foot on center from the corner of this wall, let's go ahead and highlight that. There's a tool down here that says move it to the framing reference. That will adjust it so that I'll have exactly 2 foot on center when I do a multiple copy. Let's make sure our trusses are 24-inch on center. Now I can just simply drag those trusses out every 2 foot on center. Now the next step is that I have my framing here, is I can go ahead and place my skylights in between these members. Let me zoom in on this area right here. I'm going to begin with my first skylight in the third truss bank. Let's use our skylight tool and let's click and place our skylight right in that area. And if we open up our skylight, let's go ahead and make a few changes. First of all, I want to have plumb sides, and I want to be able to manually edit my ceiling hole. Select OK. And now the first thing I want to do is let's take and make sure that we snap this right in between the trusses. So I'm going to grab that, adjust that, and we'll grab our ceiling hole and adjust that. And now I've got that right in between the two trusses. We'll go ahead and adjust our ceiling hole right in that area. And now the last thing I want to do is let's set our dimension. I want this to be 96 or 8 feet. So I'm going to type that in, and then we'll make our same adjustment down here and pull the 2. Now that I've got that positioned where I want it, let's actually set that to something like 37 inches. And we'll move that up. And let's just slide our hole up to the same place. And now I've got that positioned exactly. With both of these items highlighted, I just drew a marquee around those. Let's use our multiple copy tool. And we'll set our copy interval at 24 inches, which it's already sat at. And then I'm just going to create a couple of copies of that. So we've got our 3 skylights on that side. Let's draw a marquee around each of these 3 items. And I'm going to copy those and reflect them around the center of this doorway. Let's copy it, reflect around, and now I'll place those around the other side. I noticed my electrical went away. Let's go back into our plan view and turn the electrical layer on and see if we can figure out what's going on. If you zoom in, you can see that our electrical cans are actually, or our pendant lights are actually offset from that truss, and I want those to be right on the truss. So I'm going to use my electrical tool, draw a marquee around these, and I'll just zoom in, and I'm just going to center those right on that truss, and now you can see that they're aligned. And in the view here, one of the ways you can line up these lights is I'll just draw a line across here temporarily, and then you can highlight your lights, snap those down, and make the adjustments to those. This takes a second here. And now I've got those exactly adjusted into that. In the sample plan you can find on the website chiefarchitect.com, you can get additional detail. I'm going to change my layer set here to the ceiling plan set, and you can see how I've added the detail with the callouts for the skylights, the dimensioning, and the next section, which we're going to do into the dining room with our ceiling options. But this is underneath the layer set ceiling plan set, and then also in the cross-section elevation I've added the remaining details for the cross-section, including getting the lights centerline dimension, the cabinets, putting the dimension up to the ceiling. And again, these are all things that you can download and view for yourself on the website. There's a PDF of the plan as well as the actual plan and layout for the construction drawings. To wrap up our kitchen, let's go ahead and put our shelving in the upper section of the attic wall. Let me close this 3D view. And in the split screen, in the plan view, I'm going to move up to the attic floor here. And if I press F9 on the keyboard, that will display the reference layer or the floor below. And as a guideline, I'm going to use the W on the keyboard, and I'm just going to come in here and draw a line just through the center of that door so I know where that is. And to begin with, let's go ahead and toggle that back off. In the elevation view, let's place a partition using the partition tool. And I'm just going to come over here roughly and place that in the design. And let's maximize our view here. So if I select this partition, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this down so that it's into that lower soffit. And then using the center tool, let's go ahead and center that in the middle of the room. Now I've got my first partition set up. Let's go ahead and check the depth of that partition. Make sure that it's okay. The depth is 18 inches. I'm fine with that. And now I'm going to use the multiple copy tool. And let's go ahead and copy that at 28 inches on center. So I'm just going to create a number of copies of that shelf, that partition out here. And now I just have to do a little bit of busy work and pull those shelves down. So I'm just going to come in here and snap those shelves into the ceiling area. So we'll just grab each one of these here, and I'll finish that up. I adjusted the remaining partitions down to the top of the ceiling. Next thing I want to do is select the shelf tool and come in here and place a few shelves. And I'm just going to kind of do this randomly, and then we'll adjust them a little bit later. This is supposed to be a random pattern, and I'm going to go ahead and just finish placing the remaining shelves here. So with the shelves in position, what I'm going to do is let's split the screen. And you can see in the plan view, again I'm up in the attic area on this plan, and I'm going to select all of the components by drawing a marquee around them, and then I'm going to hold the shift key down, the control key down, and deselect the line. Now I have, you can see in the very lower left hand section of your screen, I have 16 objects selected, and with the copy tool, let's go ahead and copy and reflect around the center, choosing the line, and then that will place the remaining shelves and partitions on the other side. Now the final thing that I'm going to do, let's open up our library. If I want to accessorize the design, as you see in the rendering here, you just browse into the library and place those individual objects. Now I've already designed this, and what I've done is blocked all of those items and saved them into my library under the project name 512. And if I just scroll down, I can find that element, come over here and place that in my plan view, turn that layer on, and then let's just simply position that accordingly. I'm not sure exactly where they should go, but we'll give it a shot. And then in my elevation view, let's come over here and turn that layer on. So once I turn that layer on, let's go ahead and broaden our 3D view, and you can see the way the items look in the view. And I've just randomly adjusted it, and you can create and accessorize your design. That wraps up our kitchen ceiling options. The final video that we'll move on to are exploring the dining room ceiling options.